Welcome everybody to the Single and Stilettos Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Wendy Newman, and she's the author of 121 First Dates, How to Succeed at Online Dating, Fall in Love, and Live Happily Ever After. Really. Anyways, I'm so excited to have her here today because today she's giving us her best tips on her do's and don'ts for the first date. And let me just tell you, ladies, she knows because she went on 121 first dates. So before we jump into it, though, Wendy, I would love for you to tell our audience what made you write this book and what made you go on 121 first dates.
I will, and thank you so much for having me on your show. Yeah, it's epic. I never meant to do it. I never meant to go on 121 first dates. It wasn't a double dog dare or anything like that. But it literally was just one date at a time to find my man, and it took me that long. And I started to write the book when first date number 54 happened. Now, I didn't know he was number 54, but Google Calendar did. And it was such a doozy. Oh, my goodness. It was so bad that my girlfriends had to know the details because they were all complaining about how bad dating was, but I had them beat. And I wanted to share lessons that I learned on dates, whether they blew it or I blew it, or I could even share the successes for when we did things right.
Right. And, you know, I love that you share this with women because I think it's important for women to understand that you're not going to find Mr. Right after 2 or 3 dates. It takes a while to find the right man. So I think it's great that you did that. So let's start with your first tip on the best do or don't on a first date.
On a first date, the best do is to show up natural, yourself, without an agenda. So what you don't want to do is show up with the checklist to see if he pre-qualifies to date you again. And we're very sneaky about it. You know, we can't outright ask what his resources are or what his status is. So we kind of get underneath it with questions like, oh, you're a manager at Apple. How many people do you manage? How many years have you worked there? So we're doing the math in our heads, right? But instead of having that checklist of agenda of who are you, can I pre-qualify you to match my life and to match my personality and also my social standing, instead of that, just show up to find out who this new and interesting person is, because we put too much pressure on when we're trying to get all the information in the first date.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, Wendy. I'm glad you said that because I work with both men and women, and I will tell you, men have told me that when a woman starts going through her litany of questions to quote-unquote qualify him or, go, like you said, go through that checklist, this is how a man feels. A man feels like you're interviewing him and he knows that you're going through your checklist in your head and it's not fun for him. And once he starts to feel like he's being interrogated, you're not going to get a second date.
Absolutely. And it's disgusting to feel like a wallet. Just like it's disgusting to us to feel like just a piece of meat.
Well, that is true. I'm glad you did that comparison.
Yeah.
So what's your second tip?
For on a first date, you want to just show up with the attitude of who is he? What does he love? What is he passionate about? Who's his underdog and why? Instead of that checklist. So you could actually spark a conversation to talk about the things that work in his life or the things that work in your life. So even if you're not a match, even if you're not quite a fit or there's no chemistry, you leave this date knowing something unique about somebody, and you also have the opportunity to have more of an uplifted conversation. So if you're asking questions like, what do you love about your life? Or what's coming up in the near future that you're really excited about? That will make him happy. You know, you're actually thinking of things that make you happy. And then as you do that back and forth, it's just a really lovely, casual date.
Ladies, did you catch that? Casual. Well, that's good. And I think it's important because once you start connecting on those things, I think you form a better connection with somebody instead of just asking those standard questions that everybody asks on a first date. If you follow what Wendy said, you're going to make a better connection with him, and he's going to ask you some of the same questions back to you. And I think you'll share a lot of different things that you can connect on. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing is with the questions that I gave you, it's going to have you be able to go deep or be shallow. So it's going to give him all this space to answer in a way that he wants to instead of more of those pointed questions.
right. Okay, so what's your third tip?
On a first date, be very clear if you're out, if you don't like him, if you don't want to date him again, do everything you can to be gracious and pleasant, but don't give him the rug pull at the end. Don't let it drag on and you're amazing and bubbly and happy and flirty and sexy. And 3 hours later, when he asks to go out with you again, no. Or even worse, oh yeah, call me. And then you dodge the call. Don't do that. You know how much you hate it when he says that he'll call you and then he doesn't call, but you know that he should call because you had such a connection. And oh my God, how did this happen that he didn't call? So don't do the same thing to him back by saying yes when you mean no. You can be gracious and say, oh, thank you so much for asking. And I can see we're not quite a fit. So I had a great time with you tonight, though. And I love talking about your trip to Argentina. That was really fascinating. Have a good night.
Well, and I think that's important because what I always tell people is treat others as how you like to be treated. Don't give them false hope if you're really not interested. It's about being upfront. And like you said, Wendy is being gracious. And the other thing that I want to point out to women is don't do these long first dates. Don't do dinner dates. Just go out for drinks or I don't like to do coffee. I mean, you can do coffee because I feel like people get too jittery on coffee and it can be like an interview, but maybe go have dessert or something like that. So it's quick because all you want to see is if you have some sort of connection and you want to go out on a second date and then you can get to know him even better then.
Yeah, and if you are going to go out to dinner, don't say yes to dinner based on attraction. I said yes to dinner a lot, even at the end. Certainly a lot less than in the beginning, but because I was more into the quick meet and greet. But the only reason I would ever agree to a dinner is because he was someone that in his profile was so fascinating that I had a good hour and a half worth of conversation. Maybe what he did for a living was something that I really admired and I wanted to know about. Or maybe he lived in Argentina for 19 months or something like that. So you'd be fascinated even if there was zero connection.
Exactly. Okay, so what's your fourth tip?
Fourth first date tip. Don't be negative. I know, why would I have to tell you that? You already know that, right? But I hear from men all the time that we complain. We complain about our day at work. We complain about our mother, our best friend, our boss, our ex-boyfriend. Don't complain.
Yeah, I like how you did that. Zip it. Well, and it's true.
Said, if you don't have anything nice to say.
I like that you said that. And ladies, if you didn't notice, the whole time Wendy's saying all of this, I'm nodding my head up and down because it's true. I hear the same thing from men all the time, is that they hate when women are negative or they're complaining. It's not a person that they want to be around for the long term. And it's not to say that you can't have up and down days, but on a first date, it's going to ruin it, and he's not going to want to go out on a second date. You always want to put your best foot forward on the first date. So, yep. Okay, so what's your next tip?
Well, I want to share with you something that women get confused about, and I think that it's just our point of view. Now, we tend to think that we're serious. We're a good partner. We're partner material, a good partner package. And that all the men out there, whether it's online or offline, if they're dating, they're just dating for sport. Guys are just out for fun, or I'm serious. And I want you to consider that it's just the way that we're approaching dating and they're approaching dating because they want what we want too. But like we were talking about earlier, they have a realistic idea of what dating means. meaning a first date is just the first baby step to see, do I like her? Is she pretty? Is she sane? Is she funny? Who is this person? He's not thinking of, is she my wife? Where we'll walk into a date with, like I said, the checklist. We'll walk in and we'll also do things like talk about what we want in the long term. Someday I want to be married with children. On a first date. No, 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 no. It would be like talking about a prenup on the first date. We're leading with that end game in mind, and that's also too intense. So combine that with the interview, and we're scary. Even if he really likes you, even if he's on the same page as you, even if he thinks you would be a great match for him, when we come on like that, and I've done it, I did it in the beginning and I stopped. So when we come on that strong, they're out. And it's not just because they're out looking for fun. They're out looking to see some men are, some men aren't, right? But they're out looking to see, who are you? Who are you comes before, will I marry you?
Exactly. Well, these have been some great tips. So, Wendy, tell our audience how they can find you and your book.
You can find me at wendyspeaks.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you would like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com. If you would like to get our podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free ebook, The 3 Secrets Guaranteed to Attract Any Man Based on Scientific Research, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.